Hey, what's going on, guys? Nate back again with Phillip with another episode of the PokeTalk podcast. What's going on, man?
Hey, not too much. A lot to talk about.
Yeah.
A lot that happened the last few weeks. I guess it's this weekend.
Yeah, some big news here. We got some big PSA news about PSA acquiring something big, and a lot of big players kind of shifting around this week as far as PSA, eBay, and BGS go. So that's going to be the big news. Little bit of Pokemon GO speculation, some Lorcana talk, and new Beckett pricing. I think Beckett's trying to make a comeback. And,
Throwing a Hail Mary.
I feel like people have been coming around to Beckett a little more lately, and there's a play for Beckett.
Yeah.
But, yeah, what have you been up to?
Well, went through St. Louis, obviously. You know, we saw the eclipse. On a few days before, I stopped at Yeti Gaming. Didn't see Vince. I don't think he was there. But sold a bunch of my what was essentially bulk and borderline junk slabs, and I feel like I got a lot of value. I'm kind of in a bind though because I didn't look enough. This was partially my fault to see if there were minimums. I thought there wasn't when it came to TCG bulks hitting it out for the order. And I'm kind of in a bind now. I got some great cards that I could get lucky. I'll have to look more into it to see if there's a minimum for the TCG bulk. I know there's special there was that we discussed, but didn't see about their regular TCG bulk tier.
Yeah, and that special was like, what was it, $13.99 or something like that?
Which really wasn't a crazy deal unless you were sending like a lot. And even so, 100, it's only $1 difference. I mean, I know it's $100, but in real reality, that's not that much.
Yeah.
Now, if it were like $12.99 or less, then I mean, even $12.99, it'd have to be like $11.99. Be a truly good deal.
Yeah. Plus, with the you just sending in just a small amount, just trying to make a little, like a mini play, it is harder when you gotta have the 20 for that cheap. But
because
we got pretty cleaned out the last few submissions. As people probably know now, you and I don't actively collect modern, so we're not like a lot of people who constantly have the cheaper stuff to grade. So there's that issue. Still working on some collection goals myself. So maybe at Collecticon, I thought about doing a more buy-focused trip. Already planning on coming in a little cash heavy. So I might pick up a lot of these art rares and hold on to them and maybe make a play on them down the road. But yeah, it's harder when you don't have a lot of the bulk coming in to sift through. But that's just how we like to collect, and it might be in my future here soon if I kind of shift more of a business focus rather than a collector focus, because yeah, I've always been collector over anything, but a lot of my collection goals are closing in to be completed, and I feel pretty satisfied where I'm at, so we'll see what happens in the future.
Yeah.
But
and I'm actually making some plays. I'm pretty confident at the end of the year I'm still set potentially for that first edition Zard. It's kind of a risk going after it for me because how much I got to sell just to be able to get to that point. And essentially, I'm basically going all in on one card. Not quite one card, but it kind of feels like that. Like I still got my binder sets, I still got the Mario, but it kind of feels like I'm going all in on one card. But I think it's now or never. Like you're in a great area, and like I'm kind of seeing where you're at, and that's kind of where I want to be in the next about 24 months or so, maybe a little less, maybe like about 18 months. Now I don't think I'm going to have quite everything, but I think I can get the big 3 first edition trio. I'm pretty confident I can secure that before the 2026 Pokemon Connect. That's my goal. I because if they announce something, the hype's already going to be building. I honestly want to have it by like December of 2025. Um, and that's a lot. I'm making a lot of plays for that, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be cool to do. You mean where I'm at just by like holding a PSA first edition or what?
Uh, have most of the big grails off the list.
Oh yeah.
Because really, for me, it's the big three, the Luigi, and if I'm being honest, probably the Ponchu Carp Pikachu, and then the shiny Rayquaza. But honestly, I would be okay with just one or the other for the time being, and then potentially getting maybe a PSA 10 in the Satoshi Greninja. But that's further down the list because I don't think that card is going to be very volatile. I think it's going to stick in a 10 around like 1500 ish for a little bit. So that's further down the line, but essentially those are kind of the grails I'm looking at, and then calling it for the time being, until there's like potentially another crazy market hype that happens, if it ever does, and then selling it. That'd be a completely different story. But just it's going to get to the point where I need to consolidate goals and get this off the list. So basically, the only thing I'm buying within the hobby are the cheap art cards that I like to collect because they're fun and
Yeah.
finishing sets, which prioritize. If we talk about that all the time, prioritize what you're going after. Like, don't a set that just came out, don't be buying the cards for that just yet. Prioritize based on things that are most likely to get out of your reach, or to a point where you don't think you can. It's even worth it.
Yeah.
Um, so that's kind of what I'm looking at. Like, we already seen this Zard kind of have a little bit of uptick, which we kind of thought was going to happen. But it's still, in my opinion, at least within a range where it's just a part of the market. Like, the market has a range. I feel like this used to kind of be a more healthier part of the market, so it went up a little bit. Likewise, you could see it go back that 10% or whatever by the end of the year because people aren't buying just yet, and that's why I'm hoping at the end of the year, that's when I can pull the trigger for that very reason. That's
Yeah.
why my goal is like December, January, because by spring, I think it's going to potentially go back up. So I'm trying to beat that point beforehand. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I'm still not sure with where I'm at. Like I said, I'm going in the Collecticon cash heavy,
Mm-hmm.
but
Oh, that reminds me.
I mean the main reason for me doing that is I sold a lot of my gold stars, like I've talked about many times, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
probably going to use those funds to like max out the Roth IRA this year. Usually
Mm-hmm.
that money comes from something else, but I'm probably going to use Pokemon money for that, which is,
Holy shit!
what'd you find?
They just announced the music artist for KCCon.
Let me
You
let's make guesses here in a minute. Hold on
Okay?
a minute.
Yeah, you want to guess? I was not expecting this. I've seen him before multiple times. So,
Well,
um, yeah.
let me finish just a little story here, but
Okay.
yeah, I'm going to be funding the Roth IRA, I think. So with cash left over, I kind of have to decide, do I want to buy like one or two more grails after that? Obviously, if I did not do that, I could potentially set up to, really upgrade my Zard with what I got. But it's like I'm trying to collect those dollar signs in the future, and got to do a little more responsible thing with that first. So it's kind of a bummer for a collector boy, but it needs to be done. And yeah, I should still have some left over to potentially go for some grails, or I could just use that to kind of kickstart some plays for ultra modern. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm just gonna get to Kansas City Collect Con with some cash in hand and see where it takes me. I would like
Yeah.
to upgrade my Rayquaza Gold Star too, but
Yeah. And I'm kind of gonna follow suit with what you're doing. I'm just gonna bring everything I have to sell or potentially sell if the thing, including my PSA 9 Mario. Now, obviously, that thing is, it's got to be the right card, the right price for me to even make that decision. We know how much that's one of my favorite cards, but if there's the right deal, if the unicorn deal comes up to make it worth it, I gotta be willing to pull that trigger. But obviously, that's the chances. The way I see it, maybe a 1% chance of me actually doing it. It's more just so I know I have the money on hand if something happens where it's just outside my capabilities, and I see, I don't know what it might be, but you never know.
Yeah, you never know what you're gonna find. That's one benefit to have cash on hand. Just
Hmm.
stuff like that pops up. Not very often, but often enough
Hmm.
where you wish you had it. In our hobby.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I will have to take another look because there's a lot of cards I wasn't going to do anything with, but I also there's several cards I know that I want to send off to grade to have potential for KCCon or have it sold before then that there are pretty good grades. And if I get lucky, I'm basing off the bare minimum what I expect to get, which is like a PSA 8 essentially on a lot of the stuff.
yeah.
But if I get lucky on a few of these, you got to be conservative in your estimates because you don't want to be disappointed. I know from experience. But essentially, if I get lucky on a lot of these grades, it could be potentially double what I'm expecting in terms of value, and that changes a lot of things. So if I got to look to see what I got to do to send it off, I need to send off this order. Part of me, after kind of thinking, was like, was it worth maybe having just taken the cash, because they actually offered me a lot more in cash than I was going to than what I expected, because again, what I sold to them was mainly like bulk, but they have a certain rate that they give out. Wasn't quite bulk. There was some cars that were like $50 to $60 in there, but I mean, a lot of it was like I would have a hard time to sell on my own. Um, and looking back now, there's several cards of those. I had to get a few of these, but there's a couple of them. Like one of them, like one or two of them, I probably would have sent off grading if I had to get to 20. But it is what it is. It's not like I would have missed out a lot of money. I got pretty much the same rate. It was just, well, if I got to get to 20 cards, I could have sent those off and at least broke even on those cards. Was my opinion on it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's interesting. I do want to get into the ultra modern game. Even if I find a deal or more likely won't be buying ultra modern at KCCon, like if something changes, I'll probably still do this. But I thought about making a buy list, just like going through all the cards that we have seen in the last, basically all the way back to battle styles,
Battle
and just looking at the prices there, like seeing what
styles.
all the alt arts and character rares are going for. Specifically, the cards that were released more than like 2 months ago
Hmm.
at the time of KCCon, or potentially even like 4 months, where we've kind of see that initial wave of graded cards, where even the bulk tiers have came back, just to see how many's on eBay. So yeah, I plan on making a buy list, like cards I think that will do well, even in like a 1 to 2 year time frame potentially, and just making a buy list and just doing like 70% value on my buy list, just so if I see those cards or I see multiple, I could have prices on like a spreadsheet there, and I can say like, hey, this is a $80 card, would you take, you know, 65 if I bought this and these like 5 or 6 other cards.
Yeah.
So just to have a price in mind where I'm not overpaying, and maybe I'll catch a vendor who just wants to get rid of stuff, or sometimes they'll buy collections and they'll have some of those in their collections.
Hmm.
So that's the
Yeah.
key, finding collections that have been bought on that weekend where they haven't had time to really go through. um,
Yeah, I do plan on sticking with the illustration rare. That is the primary goal. But again, if something happens where I'm like, oh man, I got to get this card, I'll probably go through on the first day even. And actually, if there's certain like character rares, illustration rares, art rares, whatever, even alt arts that are decent price that I think that I think is potential PSA 10 candidate that would be worth holding on to for a couple years, and then obviously would go back up quite well in value. those are the cards I'm going to be looking at. You know, potentially on the cheaper side with some of the character rares and illustration rares, but also potentially, you know, might be a little bit more with the alt arts, but cards that specifically focus on either specific arts or Pokemon. Definitely the Pokemon. I might go through some of the character rares. I think right now is the time to buy for a lot of that stuff, because it's been now what, over a year or 2 years now. I feel like a lot of those markets are near bottomed out and are steady, and those can see a jump in the next couple years. And those are the plays that I'm going after. I'm thinking about the midterm game in terms of 2026. A lot of my moves are I'm making this year and next year are all towards 2026. Now, I am obviously, like, you know, the first editions are getting it before it gets too late, but also potentially selling it if the market's right for the 30th anniversary, and also going after these ultra modern, low cost cards that are easily going to go up in value, so I can, you know, double, triple, quadruple, you know, whatever my money. Say, oh, it's one or two cards that are, you know, that I bought it for, goes up to $10 a card in 2 years. I mean, if you have enough of those, that right there, you can take from $500 to $2,500 to $3,000. Guess what? That's a poncho.
Yeah, and we're starting to see like a little movement in sets like that. Like
Mm-hmm.
people, oh, what was it? Fusion Strike, I think it was. It's on the rise. So you're starting to see like these little sets that had, they're not necessarily like crazy sets, but they had like a crazy popular hit. You know, like the Mew. So you're starting to see those sets kind of increase a little bit. People are starting to eye battle styles. I know a lot of people buying up battle styles finally. Took a long time. That was like a $90 box not long ago. Now it's like 100, 110 if I memory serves right. I have not
Mm-hmm.
looked this up by just going off what people said. Um, but that's probably going to be a box in the next year where it creeps to, you know,
Mm-hmm.
if it is 110, it might creep to 130, 140. So
Yeah,
stuff is starting to creep up. You know, Battle Styles did have the first alt art, if I remember right, with Tyranitar.
that's
So
correct. And then just not too long after, you got Brilliant Stars with those character rares. The one with Gary, I mean, with the vape, $5 from TCG Player. I bet you at a con, you could get that for $3.
yeah,
Yeah, they're selling for near mint for 225. Yeah, I bet you can, maybe even a buck. You're telling me somebody and won't be willing to pay $5+ for that card if you get it for a buck in just a year or two? I mean, I feel like this is a no-brainer.
yeah.
It's a lot easier for a card to go from $1 to $10 than it is a card to go from 1,000 to even 5,000, or even 1,000 to 2,000. It's a lot easier. Um,
It's
and
like
again,
it's so cheap. It's like the price range. Like, yeah, maybe in 1-2 years they're not worth $5 because there's just so many of them and they're common. But it's like people see that artwork and they don't question $5. You know,
no.
it's like, yeah, it's worth two. But if someone sees it and like, ooh, I really want that one, I'll give you $5 for it because it's like the artwork on these is so cool. So you also got to think of it that way. Like people spend money on some crazy stuff. So if you catch people who are just out there, or you know, it's just promising just to have these, even if they're the same price. You know, they look so cool. They're amazing to collect, and such a cool time that we have right now, where we have all these lower end character rares and stuff that look so cool with some artwork.
I
But
mean, the N with the Zekrom from Billion Stars is only a buck on TCG Player.
yeah,
I know there is a lot of them because I think they're like 1 in 4, 1 in 5 pack chances of opening it. So yeah, there is a lot of them. I understand that, but still, if you get another surge of people that come into the hobby, you know, they're going to look at some of the previous eras. They're going to look at some of the other cards and what's current, and they're going to go back to the previous era plus the current era. And guess what? That includes the Scarlet and Violet, and then it includes Sword and Shield series, just like we did in 2020.
yeah, pretty much all the sword and shield stuff is kind of going off. Like
Hmm.
that's the main focus of this latest round. But yeah, it's
But you can still get the single cards very cheap.
yeah. We're also in this area where people are just opening so much stuff just for the fun of it. Even if boxes get down to $90 per box, it's almost a no-brainer to just pick up anything. The only downside is people are hoarding boxes more than ever.
Yep.
Everyone's trying to be like a Rudy. Everyone who was holding 1-2 boxes before the pandemic are now holding 1-2 cases. So everything is the same. It's just scaled up so much. But, the gains might not be as crazy, but, I mean, it's pretty safe bet with just how many people just literally enjoy opening anything. Just anything Sword and Shield and older is just setting up to be nice. And even Scarlet and Violet, even if these things get down to $80 a box, like, people are going to buy them up just to have a booster box for $80. So we're in this weird kind of la special land of Pokemon where we kind of hit the sweet spot where there's a lot of cheap stuff out there. There's a lot of cheaper sets, undesirable sets that are still cool to open. You just have a lot of options right now, and we're in a pretty healthy spot, and it just keeps on trucking. So, we kind of felt this in the last few episodes about like a market uptick. There have been some sales on like first edition Zard where it's kind of upped a little bit, and some ponchos and some famous Pikachu wearing clothes have like held real steady or a slight increase. I know your Mario PSA 9s went up a little bit again. So
Yeah, I think they're about 3,300 now ish. I'm sure somebody would probably pay 3,500 if given the opportunity, which is why I feel like 2,700 or so is probably what I could get for it in terms of trade and or cash. But
yeah, the situation with that card is weird too, because like you have all these ponchos that are easy 10s, but where's a cheaper option? That's a PSA 9. So the PSA 9s start to creep up. Then once the 9s get to a certain spot, there's not that many 8s and belows, but they'll start creeping up. And we're kind of seeing that. I think we will see that with the Zard if the 10s creep up again. The 9s are sitting around 20K. A lot of people who have theirs on eBay don't want to acknowledge the recent sales of under 20K. So everyone's trying to hold out for that net 20K. I know of a private sale who just sold one 19.5 for a PSA 9. So they're still moving around there. They're not quite hitting that 18K mark, but yeah, I might need to jump on one of those if the opportunity arises for a pretty good deal. But what else we got? I guess we can check out that KC Con artist there. Tell me what genre it is, and I'll try to guess it here.
Rap.
Okay, and is it nostalgic like some old guy?
I don't know if I would call it nostalgic per se, but I've been doing it a long time.
Huh. Surely not DOGG.
No.
Say that's too big.
He would want too much. It's somebody you want a hint?
Hold on.
Okay.
Let me ponder a little more here.
It's not somebody I was suspecting, but it makes sense. I'll just say that.
So he's probably tied to something nerdy in a way. And it's just a single guy.
Yep.
I really don't know. Is it kind of like that type, like Snoop Dogg type?
No, not quite.
Who the heck would it be then?
He's somebody okay, are you ready for me to give you a hint?
Yeah.
He's somebody local to KC. How well do you know your regional musicians.
How old does he, like, how far back does he go?
90s, he's been doing it since.
Hmm. I don't know, man. Not too far up on the KC culture.
It's Tech Nine.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Huh.
I was not expecting that, and he's playing Caribou, which is probably one of his biggest party hits.
Yeah. Yeah.
Caribou, Red Kingdom. You know, he's got some. I've seen him twice, or two or three times. I've seen him one or two times in Columbia, then one time in like the St. Louis area. Uh, I like some of his music. I think he's pretty talented, but I'm not always a fan of the clientele that comes out to see him.
Was that right?
I remember a couple times. Each time I've been to a concert, there was some rowdy folks.
Get a
I feel
little
like
ratty on
there's a
you. A
lot
little
there's a
too
lot of
ratty.
angry folks that I feel like listen to his music and they got
Yeah.
mental issues.
Yeah. Just throw him in a Collecticon convention. Let's go.
Exactly. Let's see what happens. Yeah, like two of the concerts I've been to, somebody was escorted out because they were being so ridiculous. Like, no, I'm serious. And then there was one I saw, was it Chris Calico? Now on Halloween in Columbia, that was an awesome show.
Hey, it's about to throw down in KC. Everyone, this is
You got
gonna be
Chuck
the
Norris too.
this is
I'm
gonna
sure
be the
Chuck Norris is
show.
gonna just love Tech Nine.
Chuck Norris gonna do some roundhouse kicks to some Tech Nine fans. Sounds like. Don't miss it.
Yeah, but I will say they're kind of top heavy with Tech Nine and Chuck Norris. There's not a whole lot of there's some big voice name actors, but not like last year. And I'm really wanting to see like a Veronica Taylor, a Sabat, or like a Schemmel, and I don't think we're gonna get it.
Yeah. Veronica Taylor, like we said, she does do a lot of stuff, and she could be last minute, but
Maybe,
yeah,
but I feel like she's somebody that plan. This is her career at this point. I feel like she plans pretty accordingly.
yeah. We
So
do
unless
have
she
the
wants,
hotel now confirmed, which is back at the Marriott. So
where we stayed the first year.
yeah, I saw that, and it was, you know, it was at the Marriott the very first year they had it. And we were there, and it was fine, but I think you have to walk outside. It's just literally
Oh my
right across the
god!
street. But
But still,
yeah, that's annoying because they had it in the Lois Hotel
I
last
like that
year.
place. I like that place.
Yeah, it was pretty much the same quality. I don't think it was as nice. Like the bar and front area wasn't as big, so maybe they're trying to accommodate that for like trade nights, but I highly doubt they care after the event. But
Mm.
it will be nice for the trade night just to have that big a space. But yeah, the last year's hotel, you could walk right to the convention center. It's all connected. A lot of them are in these big cities. As far as I know, the Marriott is not, but kind of catty corner to the convention center and the Marriott is like an outdoor event area downtown KC. So that's pretty cool. Last year they had, or the year before they had something going on there. So lots of stuff happening right there. It's just you got to kind of walk out in the open, and that's kind of, you know.
Well, so I mean, the first time it was the dead of July, so it was kind of nasty.
Yeah, I
It
think we got
rained too
rained
the
on
first
like
day. Yeah,
just
the
for a
first
few
day.
minutes.
Yeah, and then the second day, it was hot and muggy because it rained the previous day. So I mean, I don't know. It doesn't really matter to me. I don't mind walking. I don't mind. It's whichever.
Get that nice first layer of sweat out of the way so you can be even
Oh
more
yeah, I'm
smelly when
sure.
you hang around everybody
I
else.
can't wait to get in that area. There's going to be some pleasant aromas, I'm sure. I saw a photo going around something about make what was it? It's like make deodorant mandatory before you enter a convention or something like that. And I'll tell you, there last year there was a couple whiffs I got. Is all I'm going to say.
Yeah. Yep.
It
It's
is a
there.
serious problem. It is a serious problem. How many people do not have basic hygiene? It is unreal.
People are concerned here.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
Yep. Well, yeah, that's some cool news. Yeah, I'll be finalizing some plans. Guess we can go ahead and concrete everything in now with everything known. But yeah, speaking of cool art rares earlier, we do have a few art rares released,
Hmm.
and illustration rares rather, from Mask of Change. Um, More of the same here. Some really good quality artwork cards. A lot of attention to environments, I feel like.
This time.
Yeah, more of a, you know, Pokemon in their environment feel where the Pokemon takes up, no more than a fourth of the card. Um, Center focused in a lot of them, but some cards like, what was it? This Diplin, the Flapple, I guess,
Hmm.
other opposite evolution. Um, it's kind of sitting on a shelf and it's on like a street corner with a bunch of treats. Like it's like a dipping apple stand, and then there's like a worker with like the legendary's mask on the back of his head as like a celebration. And yeah, you got kind of this offset focus of the Pokemon and really take in this treat stand. So a lot more environment focused cards, and yeah, they all look pretty awesome.
Yeah, I noticed we discussed before how the first few sets it felt like it had a very minimalist sort of design. There was some color they used, but it feels like now they're incorporating more detail in the surrounding area, and they're really utilizing that color still. Um, so they're really making them bright, pop out, have extra detail within the card, make it really feel like a true piece of artwork.
Even this Monkey Dory card, there's one where he's just like chilling on a tree.
Hmm.
The Pokemon itself still kind of looks cartoony, but the tree and the grass is almost like a rough watercolor, if I had to describe it, and it's like really smooth, and then it goes into the trees where it's nice and pink, and almost into a like sharper art style for the leaves. So it really like contrasts very well. And they even, I think, in the tree incorporated some like the closer leaves being kind of out of focus. So like this is like a almost like a portrait or a picture. So yeah, they are really looking good for some of these art rares. They got Timber who's helping build a house. Got a lot going on in the background. A lot of people. There's more people focus. Like I feel like they're showing more everyday people in the world of Pokemon rather than like key characters. So that's kind of a interesting move. But making something like the art rares and illustration rares, that opens up a lot of possibilities for that. So maybe that's just why we're seeing that. We're just seeing the art expand rather from the Pokemon and the environment into like the actual world and how the world works. But yeah, overall, really cool stuff. Any cards that stick out for you? And there's not many, but
Well, yeah, we don't have a lot, but the Diplin and the um, Okahogi are the one that stand out the most for me. It's just the color involved, especially with the both the illustration rare and the I don't know if it's a halo or not.
yeah,
It looks like it's a halo, but yeah, it's the detail and color.
we
Kind of what you were
did.
saying. It feels like a watercolor painting almost.
Yeah, we did get some Japanese TCG products that are releasing in the Pokemon Center for this set.
Hmm.
And gotta say, they look really awesome too. They're continuing that artwork into the Pokemon sleeves. Um, there's a sleeve with like two characters on it, really highlighting the festival. Like I assume the DLC for Scarlet and Violet is more festival themed. I kind of boycotted the Scarlet Violet DLC. I have not played any of the DLCs, but that kind of offers a unique perspective on seeing these. That I can pretty much guess the theme with the festival going on. There's a there's a play mat where it has like fireworks and all the stands in the background, and it kind of expands the artwork of the card sleeves. So that's really cool. Not really a fan of like the other products though. There's one that features, the DLC Pokemon, one that features Heracross, that's more watercolor like, and then like a Darumaka one as well. But yeah, the first set, like the festival and like the main TCG product, deck box, sleeves, and playmat, those actually look pretty sick. So, another thing with cool artwork, we had the Worlds 2024 Honolulu reveal.
These look pretty cool.
We have some pretty amazing artwork. You know, if people don't know, with Pokemon Worlds, there's always artwork, like official artwork, that gets released with Worlds. They had Nashville, where it's like very Nashville and like Pikachu playing a guitar. Some of the other more memorable or one of the most memorable ones is Japan last year, where it's like, kind of eating a rice of like ramen and stuff like that. So they've really upped their game in the last few. And with this one, we are seeing, no surprise, water themed, specifically underwater theme. So yeah, it looks really sick. Pikachu is like chilling underwater with a bunch of Pokemon, and he's got the snorkel and goggles on. He's got him a nice little Hawaiian shirt and some flippers. So, you even said it. The mind instantly races like, ooh, that's going to be an amazing Pokemon Go
Yeah,
chase
I mean,
right
they
there.
had
But
one for the English one, or the one in the UK, and I had a trade for that shiny. But I assume they're gonna have another one for this one, but you never know.
what'd you have to trade for that one?
It was some sort of event Pikachu. It was only one of them. I can't remember which one it was. I just forget which one it was. I think it was the one from maybe one of the ones from Seattle. I can't remember, but it was an event chew that they wanted. That's all they wanted for it. No, it wasn't. I don't even remember, man. Honestly, it was nothing crazy. It was just an event that they didn't have, an event shiny that they didn't have. So
Yeah. Well, must not have been too special to you if you
it really
forgot.
wasn't. I think it was something I had two of, even like two to trade, so it didn't really affect me at all.
Yeah. So yeah, it's gonna be pretty awesome seeing the like, you can just see this artwork. If you haven't, go check out Poke Beach. Yeah, it's got everything. It's got Asmurl holding a flower like in the background. Um, it's hard to tell, but it looks like a Railu down there, like a Railu in the back left with the
I think that's what
same
that is.
outfit. He's got the
Yeah, that looks like what it is. You got Zoomeroo, you got a few Mantines in the distance.
yeah.
Looks like Coaxley with their hair all messed up.
Yeah, I didn't notice
Frillish,
that one.
Squirtle.
Squirtle, and like Squirtle
There's
had like,
a
looks like he's just using a couple bubbles that he made for
hmm
goggles. Yeah, the Railu is like in the full scuba gear, and then he's like taking a picture of a what is it, Golden Go? The
Well, I want to know where you got that camera. Underwater camera gear ain't cheap.
it looks like one of those cheapy disposable underwater cameras from the 90s, early 2000s. So maybe he went the cheap route. But
Yeah.
but yeah. So maybe there's like some type of event about taking pictures with Golden Go or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, the promo this year is going to be pretty epic. So
hmm
let's see. We know 2024 is in Honolulu, obviously. 2025, that's the year that we don't know much about. San Francisco was
Leaked, but
probably the spot, but I think that was for 2026. So, we hypothesized going you know, Asia region, US region, Europe region, and that kind of seemed like the direction we were going, starting with London. But we had London, then we had Japan, then we had Hawaii, and then if we skip ahead 2 years about San Francisco, that kind of leaves you to think like next year is going to be some European country. So yeah, maybe they alternate. U.S. Europe, U.S. Japan, U.S. Europe, U.S. Japan, something like that. Or maybe they just have no rhyme or reason at all. So who knows? My guess
Feel like vacation
is
in there.
yeah. My guess is it's gonna be a Europe area. So the last time they went to Europe or like regions, was London. Not exactly the Europe region there, but they went to, man, I think that's pretty much it. There's not much. So surely they have to hit like Paris or
Berlin,
or
or yeah,
Berlin or
Paris.
somewhere like that. Surely they have to. So somewhere in Spain, like France or Germany, something like that. Some of the big boys.
Yeah,
So yeah, it'd be pretty cool to see. But
maybe 1 year. I wouldn't mind going out there. California wouldn't be too crazy if you're just there for a weekend, or like 5 days, Uh, but Hawaii would be pretty expensive.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yep, it's kind of wild. Um, I'd like to get to one eventually. I've never been to Worlds, but it's never really been my thing to go to like those events. There is a
We could try to
play.
buy a place card.
Yeah, there's a play though on the merch. Like I'm anxious to see what they're gonna do. A lot of people with Japan, you could go to Japan and buy some of the merch and just make bank. So before it has been worth it just to go, just to get into the Pokemon Center, but they kind of have to limit the Pokemon Center now with all these stipulations. So it's probably only going to get worse being in Honolulu. So we'll see what they do. Hopefully they have enough supply, and I'm sure they're really preparing for just a horde of people, even more so than Japan, because it's a little closer to the U.S. But who knows?
Hmm.
That's pretty much about it as far as the surface info. How long we've been going already?
I
47
have no.
minutes.
It's not bad.
So, yeah, really just have the big thing to talk about now,
Hmm.
with PSA taking over eBay Vault and some shifts there. There's something new with Beckett. But real quick, there is one last small thing I want to talk about. It is Lorcana, and just the thought of there's been like a shift from what I've seen. Most people have not been really playing Lorcana as much as what we'd expect. Obviously, some communities are really thriving, but people have seen like a really big dip across across the board for the most part. Um, it is still going pretty strong. The Inklings and Floodborne sets have really ramped up the play, so it's kind of coming back a little bit. I think it'll be in a pretty good spot after a few more sets. So people are still hyped to play, but you're able to find Floodborne and Inkling stuff on the shelf. The thing you're not able to find on the shelf is obviously first chapter. Even with some reprints, it is still a struggle out there. It seems like every time there's a set, they release a new batch of first chapter, but it's always the blister packs. Some of the stores get booster boxes. One of our local stores here, I went into the other day to get some supplies. They had a crap ton of first chapter booster packs. They priced at like $6, which is kind of the going rate out there, if people find them in the wild. But you could, like, literally, this is as of 4 days ago. you could buy booster boxes of Floodborn and Inklings. So they had booster boxes in the back that you could buy right then and there. They did have booster boxes of the first chapter, but they were not selling those as a box. So the box prices, I think, were like 15% off. The cost of each pack being $6, and then they were doing like 15% off. So you could buy as many first chapter packs as you wanted, but you can't get that 15% off deal. So it's interesting. It kind of makes me want to go back and buy some more because like that's the price people are paying all over. I just want to pull one enchanted. If I could pull an enchanted Elsa, I mean my Lorcana days would be done. But I don't know. The chase is there. I have the set complete. I just need a few hollow cards left and the enchanteds. If I could just pull one enchanted from the first chapter set, it'd be good for me.
Yeah, I'm kind of just watching the sets drop. Um, Maybe I'll open some here soon, but not really a priority right now. Um, it's just, all focus is pretty much on, again, going for the Czar. This is what I did last year. It sucks, but unless it can be a play for money, I'm not buying a lot of personal stuff
Yeah.
right now for cards. There might be a couple, like all the cards I traded Yeti. It wasn't anything for me. You got to keep the eye on the prize. And like for example, I'd love to get a first chapter box and open it at KCCon though, 100%. I'll do that with you.
Yeah.
Like no problem. But like, you know, going out and just buying a booster box right now, hoping to pull an enchanted, probably not. Just because the risk to reward isn't really there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If you did want to go in, I talked to our buddy who went with us, and he might be interested in that too. It's kind of the gamble, but I need all the hollows for my set. So if we all open it, I'd buy the hollows you guys had from you.
I mean,
So
yeah,
make
there's
a little
only
money
unless
back
it's
there.
there's very few cards I actually want to collect. I'm not trying to collect the set, but there are some cards, are some characters that I do like. So unless it's one of those, absolutely. I mean, obviously, if we pulled an Elsa, we could all agree to go in on thirds or whatever and just split the money
Yeah.
and get it graded. But
Yeah, they just keep going up. I mean, from what I could
which is
tell.
which I don't get. I like it's just like the Umbreon, right? Like it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's going to be, D23 cards are there and they're much more rare, but it is kind of, the same artwork as the uncommon card for Elsa in the set. That is a thing. And, people know the D23 cards are there. It's going to be one of those things where, like, the set Elsa takes the lead and it's going to be the poster. It's going to be like the first Ed Charizard.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to take some time for like D23 to really be appreciated. It's going to be one of those things.
It might take, when we talked about when we sold some of our stuff with the D23 cards, one, in my opinion, we were going to see something to buy about this time when it came to the Elsa. The D23 Elsa, and we haven't. It still feels like Lorcana is stuck in that 2020-2021 phase still within the hobby. And I think we might not see it for another year, maybe 2 years before that Elsa card goes ham. If you look at the Elsa and the 10, it's the only D23 card that has stayed truly strong and impervious at this point. Yeah, you can argue the Stitch and the Dragon are pretty strong too, but like those cards have gone down. Even if some buy it nows have gotten pretty close to what the MSR or what the market price was during like October of last year. There was just some that sold for like 2,200 for auctions, for example, just like 1 week ago, and then some sold for closer to 3,000 just 2 3 weeks ago. So you're there. It's also kind of in that market to where the people that are going to want it, that feel like they have to get it, potentially FOMOing, they're going to be willing to spend the extra $500 because in their mind it's still a win if it gets to, if it doubles to 4,000 if they bought it at 2,000 or whatever. But I think it's going to take a while potentially before we see that because the market is still so lucrative if you're grading some of the enchanteds. It really is. And the numbers on these cards shouldn't be what they are. But here we are.
Yeah. There's some plays on those enchanteds. If you look at
There
that
is.
Elsa,
There is.
you think you can get it for 14 to $1,700 raw, because people are still opening them actively, and they're going for 2,400. So.
And I think they're talking about another first chapter reprint. I know we're going to see one.
Yeah.
At some point.
It might be something on my buy list, there at KCCon if I want to go big. Yeah, I'll buy an enchanted Elsa, but it's got to be at this raw price. It's got to have a 10 chance.
But here's the thing: you really think a seller's gonna hit that up if they know it's got a 10 chance?
If they bought it there at the con, maybe.
Maybe.
That's why you got to find the people on Sunday who bought collections.
That don't feel like necessarily say not to grade because the margins are going to be slim. I mean, I can understand that. Who knows?
Or they would like to grade it. Yeah, but if they could take the quick flip right now, that means a lot more.
It's also vendors. Worth it.
Yeah, it also means a lot more to vendors than the long haul sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Getting that money back and making a couple $100 off the same weekend is also pretty lucrative,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, other than that, let's talk about eBay for a little bit.
The big thing. Yeah, big thing.
So, yeah, some huge news. People kind of suspected something in the works, but we're just going to kind of break it down here real simple . So, let's go over who owns what. I have this nice chart. So
it's got confusing at this point. It has.
Yeah. So Golden was under Collectors, I believe, who PSA was also under. So you had PSA kind of, you basically have eBay, Fanatics, and Collectors. eBay is, the king of the auctions. Then you have Golden Auctions, who would do a little more high-end cards and specifically sports memorabilia. And then Fanatics has PWCC, who I feel like does more higher-end cards, but not as much memorabilia as Golden. So those were kind of the three auction places, right? Fanatics also owns a lot with the card IPs, I guess you could call them, but they're the rights to the brands. They own Bowman, they own Topps. They started this Fanatics Live. They've been really making some big moves over there, but they've kind of stayed in their corner. So they're pretty much the same. Collectors, who owns PSA and SGC, are kind of becoming the big dog as far as the grading goes. They operate the Long Beach Expo, Card Ladder. Obviously, picked up SGC not long ago, and WADA. So they own WADA as well for game grading. They have acquired. So PSA's parent company has acquired the eBay Vault. So eBay has been building up this vault service for a while now, and there's been a lot of really great consignment services coming out of this. People like Catch 'em All Collectibles, he's been preaching it for a long time. Dan over there actually have some cards with him now. He would offer as low, anywhere from 1% for really high-end stuff. If you sold, I think, a card 10,000 and above, he's only taking 1% on it because that's a lot of money. But, anywhere from 1 to 6% which pretty much is very competitive if you were to sell directly on eBay. Um, eBay is offering them these rates because they're trying to build up that service. And it looks like it's worked because PSA was interested, and or collectors rather, and they have purchased the eBay vault. So that's interesting. Collectors never really had like a vault service like PSA has their vault, but it never really took off like the eBay vault did. So they're trying to capitalize on that. It's a big win for collectors because they have a really nice fleshed out vault service now in the eBay vault, and I think it's going to remain the eBay vault. It's just owned by collectors. So eBay, the even bigger dog on the auction side,
Mm-hmm.
they obviously eBay is a monster in itself. They bought TCG Player. What was it, 2 years ago?
Mm-hmm. It's like 300 million or something like that.
Yeah, I have not even the remote idea. I remember how much it was, but yeah, they bought TCG Player. So basically, the two biggest marketplaces. I mean, they are just massive now. They have acquired Golden Auctions from collectors. So yeah, it's kind of a two-way deal, and I think it really
Mm-hmm.
benefits both
Both.
companies really well. Um, eBay as an auction service had this vault service, and collectors as a grading slash collecting service had this um, auction service. So they basically gave up the auction service to the auction king, and eBay gave up their vault service to like the collector king. So
Mm-hmm.
it kind of made sense. They were kind of competing against each other, and they're like, hey, this is more of your thing. That's more of my thing. Let's make a deal and work together. So pretty huge for these two companies, and I really think the services swapped are in the right hands now. And yeah, the eBay vault in the hands of PSA, and their PSA vault had the direction they were moving with it. If they can incorporate that and like merge the two ideas, that's going to be amazing. Like anything you grade with PSA, like they automatically add it to like your vault section on their website, so you can like see the scan, see the estimated value. Um,
Get quick to market. That's the biggest thing. When you're trying to get a certain card fast to market, you can bypass the shipping. We already saw some people would do that, like it can be kind of sketch. Like there'd be scans and it'd be well before they received it when the times are kind of chaotic about when they would come back. And be like, it has received this grade, shipping so and so. But now you don't have to worry about that.
yeah,
Ships directly from the vault. So that helps on saving fees as grading cards. Now, one thing that's kind of interesting is the what appears to be the proposed rates.
yeah, they they're changing up some stuff. Yeah, they're not offering the good old 0% to gain those customers, but yeah, it will be swapping over to rates. Um, I don't know if you had the rates up, but
I do, but
yeah,
and this is what I'm uncertain of. Is this before the eBay store membership is included? Because if you're dealing with a lot of $2,500 plus cards as it is, the eBay store is greatly beneficial. Where you get the first, so this is going to be a little bit more beneficial by a few percent, but essentially as it stands now, with I can't remember which tier I enrolled in, it's like it wasn't the highest. I don't know what the highest is, but that's a lot of volume. But there's one where essentially with the rates are the first 2,500 is their standard rate, with like the 12.45% or whatever it is. After the first 2,500, it goes down to I think it's 0.20235,
yeah,
or like so 2.35%. I would have to double check those rates, but essentially you save significantly at that point when it comes to fees, and averages it out where it's actually not that bad as opposed to selling it like through PayPal, which I I've only done one, few $1,000 card through PayPal like that, and I semi knew the person, so I was okay. But just sending random strangers like through PayPal, I know it's supposed to protect it, but still, once it goes to the eBay authentication, it's on them.
Mm-hmm.
So that with that much cost included, that very safety, you have a strong safety net as a seller. But now these supposed rates, I'm assuming it's 9%, and then you could potentially have the membership fees, which it would save. But the only ones it really impacts is the higher value cards, like the $1,000 plus ones. Anything under, which is a large percentage of Pokemon, and it looks worse potentially.
Yeah, the chart here, it's says competitive auction rates. Um, so yeah, you're definitely. It is nice to have it tied in, right? It's nice to send a card to grade and then have it go to the vault automatically, and then you can sell it from the vault. So it after it's graded, it doesn't even like leave your hands. They take care of the shipping and all that. So that's nice. And I assume maybe in the near future when all this is implemented, when you sell a card on eBay, they'll know exactly what card it is, or you can go to your eBay / PSA owned vault and say, okay, I want to sell this card listed on eBay, and then that's it. Um, so before that's how it works right now. Like you can literally send a card to an eBay vault and then pay like hardly like nothing, I think, still, as long as you're in right now. I'm not sure if they upped it for new people joining on. Um, but yeah, a card under $100, you're paying 16% on when you sell through the PSA vault. Um, so that isn't that great. You're paying 14% up to $500. That's about the eBay rates. Up to 1,000, 13%. 2,500, 10%. So that's where it like starts to make sense, right? Like, okay, like anything over 1,000, you're paying 10% on. That's a little less than, the average eBayer where it's like worth it. And then you don't have to worry about, the security of the card and shipping it back and forth. It's that it starts to make sense there. 9% up to 5,000, and 5,000 plus, you're paying a flat 7%. So if you got some stuff you want to consign, um, it's to get those good rates that people like Dan and Z&G Emporium are offering. I mean, you might be too late. You should have sent them yesterday. Get out there, touch base with them. I mean, you need to do this as soon as possible if you're trying to take advantage of the low rates, because things will change. Dan was anticipating this. Everybody was. eBay just can't sell zero fees forever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and instead of going up a little bit, they're going up a lot because now there's a new company involved and they got to take advantage of their investment. So, yeah, do it ASAP as soon as possible. I mean, get the cards out in the mail. As soon as you're reading this, you should be grabbing those cards.
Which is what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not going to last long. I mean, yeah, I don't know. And Dan, he's going to have a video up by the time you hear this. This comes out Sunday. He's going to have a video up Monday detailing the changes. He basically said the window is closing or has closed. Like if cards that are inbound to him, he's still going to go through the old system, but he's going to have to maybe wait on new cards. So it's going to be kind of a waiting game to see when these changes are implemented,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
I
So,
mean, it's some people suspect might be the end of summer. They said quarter 2, so that would be like by the beginning of summer or the middle of summer.
yeah, that could be
Um,
tomorrow.
yeah, that could, or it could be it could not be till June. It's hard to say. But this is no reason why I kind of want to go ahead and get my stuff created as fast as possible. It wasn't even this necessarily, but this kind of made things like, oh, I have to get these cards out. you know, Maybe it'll be worth sending to Z and G Emporium before things hit, uh, because the way they work, um, yeah, I might have to pay more for grading than I was anticipating overall, but if I can get it to where it's direct PayPal, essentially, where I don't get hit with any of the fees really, or too many of the fees, it might be a play to help save on cost, especially as we approach what appears to be an increase in rates under $500.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
It's not much. Don't get me wrong. It's not much. I'll have to do the math what that ends up being, but I mean, well, I guess it's pretty easy, right? It ends up being $3. So if you have a dozen cars, you're talking 30 to $50. If it's under $100 at most, you're talking. It's not a crazy amount, but it's still taking a little bit piece of the pie out, right? And
Yeah,
that's before the inevitable, unless they do another audible when it comes to the tax law. That's another thing you have to anticipate. So sending to ZNG Emporium makes it to where it gets directly into your account. You know, that starts to make sense. Even if it doesn't sell, what I could get on my own with Buy It Nows, sometimes you just got to take the honey and run. And this might be one of those times.
yeah. Yep, fees are coming either way. And like if you sell
Yeah.
at the con, that's kind of what your original plan was. It's not as big a deal for you, but
No. And the plan was to get my stuff back by, like, I don't know, sometime in May, have about 30-ish days to sell on my own. Whatever I don't sell, take with me at con. A few of these cars I was pretty confident I could sell pretty quickly. But a few others, yeah, might make sense. And then at that point, depending on the value I can get for cash and trade, you know, essentially I would have to get 70 cent cash. It'd have to be pretty solidly around there to make me want to sell a few of these cards. And these cards aren't like what I've had last year with like junk slabs. These cards are more value to be had,
yeah.
even if there might be more niche from the era that they're in.
Yep, you got some pretty good ones. So yeah, it's interesting to see all these changes unfold. Didn't know it was as good of timing as it was, but I'm glad I have been,
Yeah, you end up looking out there.
and glad I got these cards in, and these are literally the last of the gold stars. So I'm really glad I decided to sell gold stars when I did. Um, it's going to be interesting though if I decide to sell the Rayquaza to try to find something there. But yeah, it's had pretty good timing on selling my gold stars and my big cards because I mean, going from what I can't even remember what it was, maybe like a 4 to 6% fee to 10% fee on those cards. It's quite a big difference there.
Mm-hmm.
So, yep. And if Z and G, if James and Dan offer the sub $100 consignment, and they could get hit with 16% fees, it's probably worth it for them to sell on their own because surely they get a little bit less in fees.
Well, I
Maybe
assume
around
they're also,
14%.
honestly, I don't know what the top store membership is, but I assume they're enrolled in that. I assume it's lower fees across the board, including the standard fees. So I don't know what it is because of that, but that allows him to be able to do some of the sales he's able to do.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because you're not able, you're only, once you get to that point, it's significant how much you're saving on fees when you enroll. Yeah, it's a couple $1,000s a year, but if you're selling enough, that's just a small fee.
Mm-hmm.
When he's definitely selling a lot. I mean, I would assume he's selling in the millions
Oh yeah.
a year, tens of
Yeah.
millions maybe.
Yeah, he posted some numbers, but yeah, definitely gonna be getting up there. So yeah, it's wild times. We didn't realize, like, I think a lot of people were sleeping these last 6 months, when cards weren't as hyped, and people should have taken advantage of it a little more, and
Well,
times are
I
changing.
I will say, and so this can be detrimental as a seller in some ways, but there's also benefits to the consumer, but not in the way you might think immediately, because I think this actually hurts the seller in some regards, like the small time seller, like me, for example, which I think is a lot of the people within the hobby. So what this does, in my opinion, what it might do is strengthen one, go ahead and just sell at cons like this, right? Especially if you can find a whatnot streamer,
Yeah.
or like it does, and also as a consumer, it makes sense even if you're a bigger store to take off a certain price more. So we were seeing it was basically identical to eBay, right, for a while, and it still is. I'm interested to see when we go to KCCon if we're going to see like, hey, would you take 10-15% off? Depending on what card it is, right? But like, I wonder if you'll start having people being more willing to do it as sellers because some of the rates, if you fall in that $2,000 to $3,000 card range.
Yeah, it's weird, and a lot of people are connected with services like Z&G and Catch 'em All, so it's weird. It's kind of shaking up everybody's plans, and yeah, we were in this void. That was kind of the norm. Just kind of sell at cons for the percentage off and kind of grind it out. But these consignment services and this eBay vault has kind of created like a void in our hobby the last 6 months that has really filled with benefit. So yeah, now that's kind of getting optimized by the companies, and yeah, it's things are gonna be kind of back to normal. If you didn't take advantage of it, it is what it is. All it is lower seller fees, so you get a little more money for your cards, and thankful to those people offering stuff like that. Yeah, it's definitely was a time to take advantage of if you had some mid to high tier cards to sell. But other than that, that's kind of all my thoughts on it. Obviously, we're still developing. Dan's going to have his response Monday, so maybe we'll talk about that a little more in the next episode. My cards through him should be listed this week, so mine are good with him. And I told him, if they sit, I did the buy it now, so we priced them pretty much like lowest, but like good pricing. If they sit on eBay for a while, I'll probably lower them pretty quickly to avoid this change. But yeah, I'll give you guys updates on all that. And I told him, if they sit for a while, probably consider coming down, potentially even 4 or 5%, just to make sure they get sold before the change. But any other things you want to talk about? That's pretty much it for me. Pretty
I
solid
think that,
amount of time. So
yeah, I think that's about it.
yeah, let us know what you guys think. We don't have many listeners, but we have a dedicated handful, so we appreciate you guys. If you are one of
Yeah.
those, go ahead and reach out and say hey. And like I said, we just keep doing this to stay engaged in the hobby, and we appreciate getting to know those dedicated listeners.
I mean, it's been pretty consistent. At first, I thought maybe it was dropping off, but it's not crazy, but I mean, it's consistent where it's been. And I mean, the only lot of conclusion is we got several dozen people essentially that do engage in our show regularly, and I find that pretty amazing because we didn't know what we were going to get. And I know it's not like obviously these big streamers like even like Catch 'em All or Person's stream or podcast, uh, but just the fact that somebody's actually willing to listen to us, you are appreciated.
Yeah.
Like
Which even,
seriously. I
them,
mean,
they're considered like uber small, but
well,
it's like,
they play a role, and yeah, they're not like Pokey Rev or like Leonhardt level, but they have the individuals that watch them are a lot of people that are closely engaged in the hobby, and even a lot of people that are utilizing a lot of money. There's a lot of changing of hands with cars and people trying to make plays. And I think it's pretty important to have that role within the hobby, because one, to make money, but two, to get cards you want, because money is important to get to cards what you want, but it's not the sole thing in the hobby. It's not. And I think that's one of the most important things to realize is you also have to be able to sell things and flip things to get the cards you want, unless you're just loaded, you know. But for a good portion of us, you got to work your way up to get there, and they offer a great role to either do that or actually make a business like what they have.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And like even the small communities, like, you know, dedicated hobby members are the niche of the hobby, but we're, whereas, you know, Catch 'em All or those podcasts might be the squirrel to the fox. We're the little tiny flea on the squirrel.
I was gonna say the acorn,
Yeah,
but
yeah. With small communities, you get that
yeah,
dedication and closeness, and like we said, our only goal is to keep engaged. It's doing its job, and anybody joining us along the way is
yeah.
nice to have you. So
I mean, we know a lot of these other YouTubers, podcasts, or whatever. They have a bigger role within the hobby. They got more money involved that they could throw around. So because of that, they got cooler cards to talk about. They can get a following because it allows the individual to see these cards, and you're essentially that person. But even you don't have quite the cards that some of these do. So it's just the fact that we are who we are and we got people that are willing to listen to us and see our opinions, listen to me in my opinion. Thank you.
yeah. Well, you fill a lot of people's shoes, and like people who've really started taking it serious in the pandemic. So you have a unique perspective, and then a lot of people who have these podcasts have been around a long time. I've been around a while, but I'm just another guy who's been here before the hype. Whereas you're one of the people, majority of people listening to these things now is like people who just started in the last few years. So people like your side of things as well and see how much you've learned in a short amount of time.
And then
So
maybe I might inspire somebody to go after one of their grails. It takes a lot of dedication to basically be on a strict budget for several years in a row just to get the cards you want. um, and I guess that's one of the things I offer, I suppose. But you know, I think it's great that we have a lot of folks that are willing to learn and enhance their experience through listening to us or other people, because there's a lot you can learn by listening to other people's experiences. Not everybody's experience is worth taking to heart.
yeah,
um, but still, there is a lot to learn. You can hear about other people's what they're doing in the hobby, and you could gauge for yourself if you should do something similar or if you should do something different. Ultimately, it's about what you think is best.
for sure. Yep. And for selfish reasons, the podcast is doing just what I hoped for me. I've really been in a rut with collecting the last month. I feel like I go in this like month to month rut, but then certain months are harder. And yeah, this keeps me engaged. Like after we record, like right now, like I'm getting an itch. Okay, like I need to get started on that buy list. It
Mm.
motivates me to go farther in the hobby. So
I would say it keeps me in tune too, especially ever since I got the Mario Chew and selling the Lorcana cards. Yeah, I know I sold some cards to Yeti, but yeah, I've been kind of meh, just kind of waiting for KCCon. But yeah, I definitely know where you're coming from. You don't always have to be fully immersed in the hobby. You can take a step back without fully removing yourself from the hobby. Sometimes it's just about focusing on what's in front of you, and that might not be Pokemon at that time.
yeah, for sure. But with that, I guess we will end it. Nothing else I need to say, it looks like. So yeah. Thank you all for watching, guys. We will have this one up on Sunday. Have no idea what the next one's about. But
We play it by ear.
yeah. Yeah, we've come to enjoy these. Like I have a running list. Anytime I'm surfing my Instagram and I see something newsworthy, I make a little bullet point to talk on. And every little bullet point we mention, I feel like we get 10 to 20 minutes of talk time in, depending on what it is. So it doesn't take many. And I kind of like doing it that way, just kind of hitting
Well,
on
sometimes it's nice
every
to have
current event.
actual. like topics if there's something key that comes up. But every so often, I'll pretty much do like not a spreadsheet, but it's a note sheet for each episode. I'll usually do that for like a structure and what I would remember key points for me to talk about or bring up.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, we'll see you in the next one, guys. Thanks for listening. And if there's anything you want us to talk about, reach out and we will hit it. Until then, we'll see you next time.
Until next time, peace.